So if we've got past, future, the present is here. And like, what exactly is this line right here? This line is essentially non-existent, right? And the past is non-existent, the future is non-existent. And so we have this point where we are right now, which is dividing non-existent from non-existent, and we're moving through from the past to the future. And that's why we say that that's why it's said that sometimes time, linear time, is an illusion. And we can think about what if we can imagine these as like movie frames. Actually, I'll do it on this line. How can I do it that it makes sense? I'll do it on this line. Imagine these are all slides of reality. And the slide that we're in now is here. Past and future are just words we're using. They don't actually mean what they've been defined as in this reality. So each one of these slides have its own sort of past and future for each slide. And as we move through the slides, each one of these past and futures, these circles, kind of looks like an infinity. Each one of these eggs of the past and the future are changing, just as the reality that we're in is a little bit different in all of these. And that's how back here, if we go like, let's say this is 20 years ago, um, the entire family of Oscar Mayer Wiener, Oscar, I think it was spelled like this, Oscar Mayer Wiener. I don't even know how to spell Wiener. That's how this family name was spelled. And then we go through realities. In this reality and its own past, that name is not that. Here, it's Oscar Mayer Wiener, however you spell Wiener, right? The Ford logo here was just like Ford. Now the Ford logo here is this like whoop, something like that. Or maybe it's the other way. Ford. Here is Luke, I am your father. In this reality, the way past was made, in this, the projected illusionary past, in this reality, it's no, I am your father. In this reality, C3PO has a completely gold body. In this reality, C3PO, somehow that movie got made where he has one silver leg. In this reality, the Monopoly Man has a monocle over his eye. In this reality, the Monopoly Man doesn't have a monocle over his eye. In this reality, Curious George had, forget if he had something with his pants or something. In this reality, it's if you build it, they will come. In this reality, it's if you build it, he will come. In this reality, in the past, projected past of this reality, 20 years ago, it's mirror. I spelled that wrong. Mirror, mirror. No, I didn't. I spelled it right. Mirror, mirror on the wall. In this reality, in the projected past, the way that movie was made, it's magic mirror. What else do we got? I'm looking at the comments. What else do you guys got? 20 years ago, Fruit of the Loom had a cornucopia, right? So we have like apple, whatever, cornucopia. In this reality, Fruit of the Loom is just the fruit. What? Where did the cornucopia go? How do we solve that? How do we solve the fact that the past, the reality that we're interacting with in the past had a different past where things were made differently? And in the reality where we're at, the past is a little bit different, which then makes this reality different. And as we go into these future slides of reality, this little line that we're on, what's the steering wheel to that? And how is it that we are experiencing this all? How is it that we get to see this contrast of reality? This is where I'll just write it here in a different color. So we have thoughts, I'm sure it's much more dynamic than this. Thoughts, emotions, actions are the steering wheel to this line right here. And if we take this line and we start to do something like this, we take a 90-degree, let's say we take a little turn, and on this line there's a whole bunch of different other projected pasts and futures. That's a little bit more different than the line that we're on now. That's going to require a little bit of a turn of the wheel, which means there's going to be a turn of your thoughts, emotions, and actions. And I would say that all of this is interconnected with the entire human and earthly species to cause something like that. Now, there's other explanations like CERN with a particle accelerator somehow destroying reality as we know it, and it tilts off our timeline. Either way, that means that we're a little bit different, which is going to be mirrored in our thoughts, emotions, and actions. If we, so each, remember, each one of these slides have a different past and future. So maybe in this slide, something closer to you than all of these examples happened a little bit differently. Or if like you wanted to just go completely like a completely different direction that you're going now and have way different slides of reality, what would that take? What sort of drastic differences would that take? You might remember that there was a trauma you went through in life. You might remember being raised a certain way. You might remember only going to a certain amount of educational years or being indoctrinated a certain way. But the way that things are now are as if the past was completely different than the past that you grew up with. Wow, I was looking for parking in Brooklyn and I know where this is going. And when it was hard to come by, and after a while, I pulled over and on my own block to call a friend, trusting someone might pull out while I stopped, thinking hard. This parking quandary. After the call, I moved my car, still seeking parking, and went a few blocks, still nothing. Then I ran an errand and returned to seek parking. This lasted. I told myself not to stay focused on the lack energy. 2 seconds later, after I took time to rearrange my energy, it was mirrored that with two consecutive spots that opened 3 feet away from my car. My energy was being mirrored by reality the whole morning. LOL. Coherence of one's dharma is expressed as lightness above the alpha constant. I can agree with that. It's almost like you go to. So, did you guys know at the speed of light, like when you become light, time doesn't exist. So, time starts to slow down. Your traveling through realities starts to slow down at the faster that you go. And when you reach the speed of light, linear time ceases to exist. And at the speed of light, there's a relationship between mass, gravity, time. That's why it's called space time. And at the speed of light, at the enlightened state, you are not experiencing physical realities in this linear state. You're experiencing the whole thing. So at the speed of light, you're experiencing the whole thing. Now, what this comment of coherence of one's dharma is expressed as lightness above the alpha constant, the more cohesive we are internally and with things like karma and dharma, the more that we have one foot in these physical realities and one foot in the godly presence of everything. And with this perspective of all realities and all possibilities of past and future, we we expand ourselves. We're here and we're also there and we're everywhere and we get closer to what this God presence is usually described as, which is omnipotent, omnipresent. Let's put omni in there as well. Omnipresent. essence, the essence. Omnipotent means all powerful. Omnipresent means everywhere. Omniscience means all knowing. So these three right here are a definition of God. And so think about being able to have access to all times, all places, all versions of reality. You know everything, you're all powerful, and you're everywhere. And if that is this God character, then that means that it's within us as well. And it's not a one way valve. It's not like being channeled into us and we don't have access back into it. It's a two-way valve, or a vortex rather, where there's there's access to everything. What does that mean? I'm not sure what you're replying to. Okay. So here's a little bit of graduation on thoughts, emotions, and actions. What are you certain of? Sir, 10, T. What are you certain of? Because the soil, so to speak, that all of this is resting on is your certainty. Your certainty, when we think about thoughts, emotions, and actions, your certainty is really what's defining your thoughts, emotions, and actions. And so think about the things that you're absolutely certain of. The sun's going to rise tomorrow, right? You don't need to think about it. It's already embedded within us. And those certainties are the foundation of thoughts, emotions, and actions. There was a time where I was certain that I was less than other people. I was certain that I was unlucky that my parents weren't wealthier. I was certain that I would be picked on every single day. I was certain that life was just a little bit dim and gray. Those were just things that I was certain of when I was younger. And that puts me into a reality where my past is colored in by this certainty, and so is my future. And as I decided to go to school to study psychology, because I was like, how can this be? What is this? How does the human being work? And I started getting into the human essence and started realizing that reality is a projection of how I am internally. It's really simple. It happens like this. It just happens as a decision. Guys, this word decision, decision. So scission comes from the same root as scissors, like scissors, scission, and then day is kind of like two. So decision actually means to cut off. And so to cut off this past, this certainty. And when you make a decision, you can untie yourself from the past and you can change the direction of your fate. You can change the direction of your fate, and that comes with certainty. Now, certainty to just change what you're certain of may take some experiences that you are able to have control of. So when you look at your life and you ask the question, why am I certain that, and this is just an example, why am I certain that everything sucks? Why am I certain that I will be stuck in this socioeconomic paradigm? Why am I certain of the mistrust in God, the mistrust in corporate America, the mistrust in government? Why am I certain of these things? And we start to dissect reality, or dissect our choices of the media that we intake, the entertainment that we intake, the conversations that we allow ourselves to be in. Are we getting into conversations about how much the weather sucks, how much our car sucks, how much our wife sucks? Like, is that the underlying theme of everything, which is the first question I asked, right? Is like, what energy are you reflecting out into reality? So, I'm getting a comment, oftentimes without wanting to, I am certain that people will reject me or find my ideas uninteresting. I definitely deal with that as well, which tends to make me a little bit shy in social situations. I tend not to talk so much. And that's projecting me into a certain reality where that's always been true. And I just keep on going down that that line. I just keep on going down that line where I feel people will reject me. And so I take myself out of situations and I basically eject myself and reject myself. And if I can let that go from this point and the blue just dissolves, I unattach myself from this line, then that will allow me to go into another line where that's not the thing. So certainty is one thing that adds to thoughts, emotions, and actions. The other is clarity. Clarity. How so when we think about clarity, we're thinking about things like specific, clear, con- concise, right? Certainty is about faith, trust. Clarity is about refinement. I like those words I picked out because they all started with the C. What did I say? Clarity is about, I can't even think. None of this is planned. I don't even remember what I said. That's actually why I do this, you guys. So I remember what it is that I said. Clarity is about being specific of what it is that you're certain of. So everything sucks. Okay. So if that's the line you're on, why? How much does it suck? How does it affect you? How does it affect everybody else? It's like getting deep into it. These are the conspiracy theory type people, which I definitely have went into that and leaned into that. And still, I'm clear and certain about a whole bunch of things. But if you think about the typical like crazy person, and that's just a stereotype, right? But I'm actually labeling this as a stage when you start discovering and you just start going like everything's poison and all the corporate America is taking over. That's a stage, even though it's still true, but that's a stage that you're in. And you can be clear on how 9/11 worked, how JFK worked, how Martin Luther King worked, how Plato, Socrates, Jesus, all of these people are getting eliminated, all the doctors, the people that are creating energy devices. You can be very clear on all of these statistics and very certain about a thing. It's still a stage because the last one is present. It's hard to actually spell when you're writing over other letters. It's kind of like writing and talking at the same time because I can see the letters underneath it. I can't even spell presence right now. Anyways, that's not how you really spell it, but it says the word presence. So you can be certain about all of these negative aspects of reality. You can be clear on it. The thing is, you're probably certain about other things in reality as well. And you're probably have clarity and specificity on other things as well. The question is, what are you present with now? Are you focusing on the fact that I'm sitting inside an electromagnetic bubble where there's volatile organic compounds coming off of the paint in the walls and the floor and the fire retardants in the clothes, even though it's probably not any in this clothes? But are we constantly presently thinking about all of those threats, putting us in a survival mode? Because if we are, we're going down a certain direction. Or is a lot of our energy and presence in the opportunity that we have here and now to shift with this new awareness that we have of some of the problems that are going on? And we have an opportunity with business, an opportunity with expression, an opportunity with relating to people that are more in line with us. And we have this opportunity, and that is going to take you down a certain series of slides into different realities. So it's really what you're certain of, what you're I should say specifically certain of, and what are you expressing now. And so we have these thoughts, emotions, and actions, and the subdomain, the aspects of thoughts, emotions, and actions are these three. So you have different aspects of all of these within these domains, and where we are mostly in the present moment, here and here, expressing through these are like the vehicles of expression of what we're certain on, what we're clear on, and what we're present with. These are the vehicles. All right. I'm making this up as I go, guys. I've never talked about this before. uh, this is all as a first time explanation for myself to get a little bit deeper in how reality works, and so I'm talking about it. I'm just letting it come out. So I like it better saying that these are the vehicles of these. Are they domains? We'll call them domains. These are the vehicles of expressions of these domains that determine the direction of travel that you're going through, that we're all going through within the slides of reality. Any question? Let me see if I have any question. You said clarity is concise. Yes. I think I said I define it with three C's. It would be awesome if presence had another C word, because then it would be like, these are the three C's of thoughts, emotions, actions. And then it could be like a nice package wrapped together. I guess I was certain I could not find a parking spot. Yes, you were certain you could not find a parking spot. And then you recalibrated and decided that you were certain that a parking spot, and you trusted that a parking spot would arrive exactly as it should. Because this is so important, I've been I have a practice where we use body, mind, and meditation and breath to get all of these things. We do that, we do psychological reprogramming exercises so that the vehicles of your expression of this start to shift, which then we can all shift reality. Because if we know that we are one with ourself and we're harmonious with ourself, then we can start to expand into the harmony of reality. And life is all about expansion, right? We're expanding ourself to that speed of light to become enlightened so that we have a perspective of all lives, all eyes, all ears that have ever existed, that ever will exist, so that we are omnipotent, omnipresence, and omniscience in the present moment. And we are certain of it, we're clear of it, and we're present with that, so that it's not just us experiencing ourselves talking to another person. We're experiencing ourselves talking to another person as that other person, and as the energy that we will both combine together and influence reality. And it's sort of like the difference between watching black and white TV versus three-dimensional virtual reality. You get another dimension when you start to view and perceive and feel life in this oneness aspect, right? Or being colorblind and then all of a sudden being able to see, or being blind and then all of a sudden being able to see. There's a way for us to turn on these sensations. A lot of it has to do with the gut as well. You had a question. Could have just typed the question. Oh, clarity brings with it clear view of where we are in the present moment, I feel. Rod, does raising one's perspective, nonlinear thinking, to a macro view provide us easier access to concise? So it's two things. A a lot of what I was talking about was expansion, and I'm I'm talking about this way. But if you actually look at these three words, certainty, clarity, and presence, that's more of micro. So we're expanding both externally and not really externally. Can I say that? We're expanding both outward and inward. It'd be like a zoom lens. We can see more, grander, and we also are our precision of movement, of thought, of action, of emotion, of presence, clarity, certainty. It's like we feel. It's like, imagine walking down the street and just walking and not really paying attention to walking, and then you become a personal trainer, a yoga instructor, and you go through all of these years of studying the body and the bones and the energy meridians and biology and physiology. And now you have an awareness of when you walk, how the levers in your body, the fascia, the muscle, the bones are all operating together in coordination with each other in balance. And you have an awareness of the organ system transferring that energy and how your heel strike rolls over onto your toes. Are you using your glutes? How are you lifting your foot up? Are you using gravity or are you working against gravity? So you have all of this knowledge. And so now you can't just walk down the street anymore. You have this awareness of all of these movements coordinating together and how they all work. And you can precisely make adjustments so that you're not just using your thighs to come forward. Maybe you're using your glutes to push yourself forward. Are you actually pushing off your calves or are you using gravity to allow your foot to just travel forward and like you're falling into the walk? So that's what it's like. It's like we gain an awareness on this in every single moment. And that's what I mean by it's like another dimension. It's another perspective where we're both able to see from an outward perspective down into where we are here and now. We're also in the here and now able to get deeper into the here and now. We're expanding in all directions. All right. Thank you guys for the comments and listening to this wild show. And I'll see you next week. Bye bye.